I'm very impressed with both the presentation of the information, but also with the information. It's a very good introduction for the public. For the average person that doesn't know anything about archaeology can come in here and very quickly, with very few words, start to understand what archaeologists do. So this is one of the better displays that I've ever seen in a museum of this sort, a local museum. So it's very impressive. And then it goes to the regional, the archaeology of the region and some of the things that are known about it. Again, with relatively small amount of text, which is really important because people lose their concentration quickly if you don't grab their attention. So, to me, this seems like a very, very good introduction to the local archaeology in a general sense. And then people can, if they're local people, they can identify with the geography with this little display here. And then, so for tourists as well as people interested in the history of the area, it's a good start. This one is a nice display of how archaeology works with buried sites, especially prehistoric sites. This text probably wouldn't hold their attention very long because it's so much text and it's so small. So this could be potentially modified just a little bit to make this more relevant to what they're seeing here. But other than that, it's a good display of how archaeology works in layers. And then we move to the artifacts, and so there's a sequence of artifacts here, a display of artifacts. And I always like to see a lot of artifacts because people are interested in the objects. And some of this is okay this way. I find it a little difficult to connect this to this, but it's okay. And again, here's some of the explanations of these things is good. This is wrong. This could be modified because that's not possible. But that's normal to see things like that. Yeah, it's a good example of the kinds of things that you're studying. And then what I'm really impressed with as well is their willingness to let people study the materials. And this is very, very important. A museum is not only a place for display, but it's a place for research. Because what's going to happen is the research that's being done here on these artifacts is going to contribute to the understanding that can be incorporated into here. So it's a good partnership between a museum whose primary function is to display and explain, and the science which it contributes to. So I'm really impressed with the setup, especially since it's volunteer. It's really, really important. So again, the same kind of display with a fairly good introduction of how pottery was made here. And I think people can get a good sense of it just by this. Again, I like the size of the text, the simplicity of the text. It's got good information, but not too complex. And the same with everything here. So we have the same kind of display here with the projectile points. It could possibly be modified a little bit as new information is gained from the studies that are being done. Then they can enhance the understanding of the materials here, maybe looking at time periods, talking about how these may have not just functioned, but how they may have been, the materials were selected and the things that are being studied. So this is good too. I like the idea of a hands-on. I mean, I'm not sure that this produces a lot, but people like to touch things. So here they can touch things and they can, feel the stones. So, especially if there's children, they like to touch things. And it looks like there's some recent flakes have been added.